Hey, it's Chris, and it's time for a practical update on how the 15-inch MacBook Pro with Touch Bar has done in the wild for 7 months. In other words, how has it performed in the real world? The plan for this video is to talk about life with all the new features, what's been good, what's been bad, and at the end, I'm gonna try to zero in on the one feature that I really couldn't do without. So back in late 2016, Apple redesigned the MacBook Pro lineup, and it was a little bit controversial. The Touch Bar was introduced and hashtag dongle life became a thing. By the way, if you're already living the dongle life or you're thinking about living the dongle life, I'll have a list of the best dongles down in the description. Now, I'm one of the people that bought that 2016 model and I pretty much maxed it out. Although there has been a 2017 refresh or update to the MacBook Pro lineup, the only thing that's actually changed is the addition of Kaby Lake processors. So that means that my experience over the last 7 months living with the Touch Bar, the Touch ID, the giant trackpad, the flatter keyboard, all the USB-C dongles, all that stuff's gonna be really relevant to anybody looking to purchase a new MacBook Pro. Just in case you're curious what my use case is, I use the MacBook Pro for editing 4K videos like this one that you're watching right now, and for doing a lot of writing, things like scripts or notes or even my book. Hey, I do want to let you guys know in September there's going to be a schedule change here on the channel. We're going to start uploading regular uploads on Tuesdays and Thursdays with bonus content, bonus uploads, and some live videos every now and then. So be prepared for that in September. So the first thing that we should talk about should probably be the Touch Bar. And it's kind of interesting because the Touch Bar could be useful, but I just don't end up using it all that much. And I think there's two real reasons for that. Number one is the placement, and number two is keyboard shortcuts. See, the placement of the Touch Bar is kind of out of the way, and also because it's flat, it's really hard to operate by touch alone. Most of the time, it's easier to just use a keyboard shortcut because there's no hunting around. You just do it based on memory. Maybe the one exception that I found is Final Cut Pro or maybe Photos, because you can kind of scrub through footage or photos and you can kind of do that by touch if you know where it is. Here's something kind of interesting though that I didn't expect. The Touch Bar has been slightly annoying for me, just slightly, because as I'm typing throughout the day, I'll accidentally hit the escape key or the Siri button, maybe like twice a day each. And it's true, you can change the Siri button to something else, which is good because I never use it, at least not on purpose, but then I'd just be hitting that button all day, so I don't really know what the difference would be. What I use the Touch Bar for the most, in all honesty, is just changing the volume and the contrast using the nifty one tap and drag feature, which is kind of a shortcut. I think the truth about the Touch Bar is that mileage will vary by person. At best, it'll probably be mildly useful, and at worst, maybe somewhat ignored. But Touch ID is an awesome addition to the MacBook Pro. I love having a fingerprint scanner on my laptop. It's obviously useful for logging into your computer, although my Apple Watch does that automatically for me, so I never really get the chance to use it for that. But it's also useful with password programs like 1Password, which I use all day long to log into different websites and services, and that's legitimately handy. Using it for Apple Pay is also cool when it's available, but I don't use it all that much. Honestly, maybe just for the occasional app, and by occasional, I mean like once or twice a year. When it comes down to the design, I love the look and feel of this laptop. The Apple look is what so many companies have tried to copy over the years. Just look at the MacBook recently, but I think there's no question, this looks really good. It's surprisingly thin and light despite having that 15-inch screen, and even though it weighs 4 pounds, packing it up into a backpack or a messenger is really no big deal at all. I could carry this around anywhere I go and not worry about it. And that brings me to the so-called dongle life with all the USB-C I/O. Look, MagSafe is gone and I don't really care, I'm not gonna cry. It was a neat feature, it wasn't a must-have feature. I never tripped over my laptop cord anyways, so I'm not gonna cry about it. On the other hand, I do really like being able to charge the laptop on either side using any port. Still, I don't like using a bunch of adapters because they create a messy workspace and they can be hard to store, and that's kind of the bottom line. Was it hard to switch to all USB-C? No, it wasn't hard, but it was just kind of cluttered. But even so, personally, I use a bunch of USB-C capable accessories, so it's really convenient to be able to plug those straight in, like the Hero or some of my hard drives. All right, let's talk about the keyboard, which I've heard it said about this keyboard lots of times that you're either gonna love it or hate it, and personally, I love it. I do a lot of writing on this MacBook, and when I do, the keys are crisp and responsive. Yeah, this is a low travel keyboard because that helps keep the MacBook thin, but it feels good. It's nice and bouncy. I did have one weird thing happen where my left shift key was kind of getting stuck, and I was about to take it in to get repaired, but it ended up resolving itself, and I've never had any other issues with sticky keys since then. Next up, let's talk about the giant trackpad, which you really have to see in person to believe. I don't think it really comes across online how big it is. The first time I saw it, my eyes kind of like popped out of my head because it was so enormous. It's so big actually that you can fit a full-size iPhone 7 Plus inside of it. So this is a force touch trackpad, which means it's not mechanical and it doesn't actually click, even though it feels like it. And honestly, I don't have a preference one way or another. I like how it feels, it doesn't bother me, it's plenty clicky, so yeah. So while it works good and does what it's supposed to do well, one complaint that I do have is that when I'm typing, sometimes my palms, because it's so big, will start moving the cursor around. And that can be kind of annoying. It probably happens at least once a day. Now, because of my job and what I do with video editing, I usually prefer to use a mouse, at least while I'm in the office. If I'm out and doing stuff, the trackpad makes a really great way to interact with the computer. All right, so next let's speak about the speakers on the 15-inch MacBook Pro, which are incredible, by the way. Like the first day that I tested out music on here, I had no idea that they had been upgraded like that. I expected them to kind of sound like every other laptop. So it was an unexpectedly awesome surprise. It's one of the subtle things, and there's a lot of them, that help make the MacBook Pro so awesome. But again, because I do so much video editing, I'm usually using headphones. So it's something that I don't always get to take advantage of, but it's something that I think a lot of people are really gonna like. So then we get to the price, and yeah, it's an expensive computer, but it's the MacBook Pro, so what did you expect? I know a lot of people thought that this was less pro than it maybe could have been or should have been, but honestly, I haven't felt that way. But look, here's the thing. If I'm buying a new computer in 5 or 10 years from now, I'm always gonna want it to do more than it does for the price at that time. That's just the way that it works. But I'll tell you what, it's probably gonna get done what I needed to get done, just like this one does. I was actually really surprised when I went back and watched The Verge's review when this came out, and they said that it couldn't handle 4K video editing.
Will vary. I was able to get pretty smooth playback editing 1080p video in Premiere, but I wasn't able to handle 4K. This laptop is well.
It handles 4K video editing all day, every day for me, but I suppose that was probably because they were using Premiere on a Mac. Huh. Actually, there were a lot of reviews out there that were low-key negative towards this computer. Like Wired called it a basic computer, an expensive basic computer, and I have to totally disagree with that. Whenever you compare a Mac to a Windows machine, it's apples to oranges, and same with an iPhone to Android devices. It's never gonna be just specs to specs. That's because, among other reasons, Apple is an ecosystem, so their hardware and software play nice together, and so do their devices. So yeah, there's a premium, and you'll either like the benefits or dislike the benefits that come along with the ecosystem, or be able to afford them or not. And so Apple will either be a lifestyle fit for you or not. In all honesty, you guys know what I use this for. The MacBook Pro 15-inch 2016 model's not even the latest model with the KB legs. It does everything that I need it to. So it's definitely the laptop that I would want to use, no question about it. I wouldn't want to trade it in for anything else. This is the laptop for me. All right, so I said I'd try to zero in on one feature that I couldn't live without, and it's kind of hard because there's a lot of subtle things that make this an awesome computer, but I think what I'm actually gonna go with is the Touch ID because I use it all day, every day, and I wouldn't wanna go back to a computer that didn't have that. I could go back to a smaller trackpad or a different keyboard or, you know what I mean? But I do really like having that Touch ID fingerprint scanner. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. I'm at DailyTech, spelled Daily, T-E-K-K, in all those places. And I will look forward to hanging out with you in the next video.